Welcome to RevCast, the Civilization podcast focused on its console platforms. I'm Toby Reeves.
Grayson.
Elthrasher.
Today I'm guest hosting. I'm the Headless 10. You can just call me Rob.
All right.
Welcome, Rob.
Thank you.
We're pleased to have Rob as our guest co-host today. I've known Rob for a little while, and so has Matt. Most people, if they're playing on Xbox, will know him from the leaderboards. He, for a while, was the number one player on the head-to-head format on multiplayer, and he is typically usually in the top 10 or around the top 10 on free-for-all. It's good to have him on the show for this time.
It's good to be here.
Let's talk about ranking up. How many games does it take to get to number one?
To get to number one? A lot. I don't know. Right now...
I'm working on it now. You know, I just started really getting into head-to-head, so I'm up to number 21. How many more games do I have to go?
I think it says right now you have 75 games played.
Yeah, all right.
And to get, I don't know, you can get to top 10. It looks like with 75 games could get you to top 10. But to get to number one... Brent right now is at number one with 120. So if you were to just not lose a game due to trickiness, 120 games would get you to be number one.
Or bad play.
Right.
Right.
Well, it would take trickiness to never lose a game.
You know, that number one has always been, for myself, kind of elusive. I've been at number 2 on PlayStation before I jumped over to Xbox because I was just having so many bugs on the PlayStation Network. When I jumped over to Xbox, I think I've been as high as number 3, and I might have been 2 at one point on head-to-head, but I've just never pushed myself to get over the top. It's a tough deal once you're that highly rated.
Every win is only a point or two.
Right, right. You want to talk a little bit about what it's like not only reaching the top ranks, but staying there?
Well, staying there is a lot more difficult. Getting there is a lot more fun. It takes about a 10-1 winning record probably to get even close. I think I says right now I have 430 wins and 50 losses. I've been losing a little more recently, playing a lot more random. Maintaining it gets harder, because one glitch, one problem, one bad game, one bad start, and you lose 30 points, and it happens twice in a day maybe, and you go from a comfortable lead to trouble.
Definitely. I think it's important to note that the leaderboard system for CivRev on multiplayer, it's run on an ELO system. Basically, in every game, your rating is dictated, or how many points you win or lose on the leaderboard is dictated by your rating versus your opponent's. And it's on a scale between 1 and 32. So if you beat somebody that's way, way higher rated than you, you'll get about 30 to 32 points. But of course, if you lose to somebody that's really low rated and you're up there in ratings, you'll drop about 30 points. And that's a big blow, because once you get up there to that high rating, you're only getting 1 or 2 points. So you need to win, as Rob said, you need to win 10, 15 games sometimes to make up for one loss.
And you get 0 points sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get 0 points. I've had that happen. I actually beat the last place player. You know, I think he was number 1,000 something, but I couldn't believe it. I hadn't seen that before. And it actually wasn't too bad of a match. And so I'm glad I won that one. But I got 0 points for that game.
The difference between 5th and 1st is 30 points right now. I mean, if you were in 1st and were to lose, you would drop down to 5th place. If you lost again, 30 more points, you drop down to like 9th place.
Oh, yeah. Or if you have something wrong with your internet connection.
Yeah, anything.
That can be very frustrating. I don't know. Like Rob, you just said that the climb is fun. Being low rated and working your way up to the top, that's a lot more fun. But for myself, I almost hate being high rated. I hate maintaining that rank. It becomes more work than fun, you know?
Yeah, a lot of pressure.
I'm the same way. I don't really feel on right now. I don't want to play a game because I might lose, because I might do something stupid. But whatever, who cares?
That's pretty much the point you have to get to.
Yep.
It's easier to get there when you're on top, though, isn't it?
Yep. But lately I've seen you kind of dropped off from the number 1 spot. So are you having more fun now? Being rated around number 5 or 10? Or
I think I'm at 8.
Or were you having fun looking down on other people when you're at number 1?
I started feeling bad some, because even with the Arabs, you'd play and you beat somebody and you get like a message and he's sad saying, oh, you used a rusher Civ, like what was I even going to do? I said, well, probably not much. I said, so it's okay to be playing against Americans, and if somebody you know is going to be good and you know is going to be playing a top-tier Civ, but when you're just trying to crush people and you're playing against people who don't know necessarily what they're doing, or it's a little more disheartening.
Would you like to talk about some of the civs you use to get to the top ranks, and who do you like to play with for fun?
For fun, I like to play random now. I blame elthrasher for that. We've had a lot of good games together, random, and just have a good time, get a good balance of what's what, different civs, different strategies, different styles.
Our games are rarely balanced.
That's true, fair enough.
Usually one of us has a really sizable advantage pretty early on. That's what random will do sometimes.
Your favorite civ icon is the Arabs. Is that who you normally used on your way up to the top, or did you still use a variety of civs?
When I rose to the top, I used a lot of Arabs, a lot of them. When I started rising, I didn't like the horse rush, but I needed to be able to stop a horse rush, obviously, to win games. And the Arabs were just a natural choice because it's really easy to kill horses with warriors with Arab, and you could kind of just sit back and let them waste their resources, and then you could just do your thing. I used a lot of Arabs to get to the top when I was doing it, and I fell off when I stopped using Arabs as much.
Well, I remember when you were starting to rise up on the leaderboards was about the time when I was starting to mess around with the Arabs a little bit more, and I was glad when I finally got the Arabs into the top ranks, and I see you coming, and you just passed me on by. I was hanging around somewhere 7 through 10, and then you just kept going and going and going and got up to the top. But it was cool to see 2 Arab icons, and eventually I think there was 3 at one point, which the Arabs was not a civ before a couple months ago that we normally saw in the top ranks, which is normally littered with Americans, Zulu, and Chinese, and sometimes Aztecs. But
tricky Aztecs.
Now, have you ever been close to the top in free-for-all, or is it just head-to-head?
It is tough to take down in free-for-all when he's trying.
That being Morte Eterna.
Morte Eterna, I'm sorry, yes.
The number 1 player right now in free-for-all.
And he designed a lot of the strategies that a lot of people use. He's just got a really good understanding of the game, and he knows what it takes to win. But, I think I got to 3 or maybe 4 or something to that effect. But even that is still like 100 points behind the number 1 spot. So it would probably take a random reset of Morte to give me a shot to get to number 1 at this point.
Let's see, I'm actually trying to get into the top 10 for my first time ever in free-for-all. I've never played it that often.
I believe you're 16 right now.
Yeah, and I used to not have any patience for free-for-all. I was mainly a head-to-head player, and when I got my last reset when my Xbox got broke, my free-for-all was the only one that didn't reset, and so I just decided, well, I might as well try to make a push. And so actually 16 is the highest I've ever been on free-for-all, and I need to push my way on to the top 10 to say I've been there. Hopefully I can do that. It's not always easy, especially if you get a free-for-all with 3 other Americans or tough power civs.
I think a big problem with free-for-all, too, at least for me sometimes, is those resyncs. In head-to-head, you're going to be the host most of the time. In free-for-all, you're not at all. And any resync, and sometimes it can just get annoying and wear on you. Like if you have a leader covering half of your screen for a good portion of the game, it just can be hard to want to play on. I've had problems with that where it's just like, I'd rather quit and just play another game. Like I'm not even enjoying it at this point.
When that happens, there's actually no way to tell what your culture accumulation is or how close you are to the next great person.
Right, or your tech, right?
It's more than annoying. Well, you can't really, but that's easier to figure out.
elthrasher, you've been in the top ranks for free-for-all before, right?
I topped that at number 3, and then I had my Red Ring of Death on my Xbox, and I was working my way back up, and then I got a random reset. So now I'm at like 450 or something like that. I haven't worked at it too much.
That's respectable.
Yeah, that's from being reset just a couple weeks ago. So
Right.
And you're playing all random too, which is respectable as well.
I do only random. I've picked my Civ, since I got the new Xbox, I think I've picked my Civ once, and that was because somebody challenged me to a Mongols versus Mongols game. Couldn't resist that.
With the whole sad leaderboard pick right now, it's all Americans and Zulu in the top 10. So I decided I was going to get something else up into the top 10. I think I'm at Russians right now, and I'm at 19, so hopefully within maybe a week or so. Hopefully even less, but...
The Russians in free-for-all, that would be a pretty tough thing. Most of the top players would consider the Russians to be one of the 3 worst civs. I've gotten them to the top 10 in head-to-head, and that was really tough. And I actually used some other civs when it still showed the Russian icon, but they are a tough civ to play with online.
It depends on the map. If you can get a good Russian map, then you got a good shot. But yeah, sometimes it's just like, oh man, no barbs, no friendlies, no nothing, no trees, no way to move. You say, good luck.
Then you just hope they're bad players.
Right. But even then, you only get a point for winning, you know?
Should we talk about our Civ of the Month?
Better know a civ segment?
We're going to talk about the Arabs this time. Kind of a good segue since you got the Arabs up into the top ranks.
The Arabs, I said, they're very powerful, especially when you're attacking early. It's a lot of wins in this game are all about getting early. Like you said earlier, it's not balanced games most of the time. It's somebody gets to a dominating lead, and the Arabs just allow you to do that earlier than most.
Let's give the rundown on their bonuses real quick. They start the game with knowledge of religion. In the ancient era, they get 50% caravan gold. Medieval, they get knowledge of mathematics. In the industrial era, they get +1 horseman or knight attack. And then in the modern era, they get 2% interest on gold reserves. The interesting thing to note about these bonuses is in the ancient era, that 50% caravan gold, I don't think that works. Have y'all found that to ever work?
Yeah, no, it doesn't work at all.
I know it doesn't apply to found caravans. Don't ever build caravans, so it's kind of hard to tell.
I believe that's been tested too. I don't think it works in any way.
I've never heard of it working, but even if it did, are we building caravans that often?
Certainly not.
It would be maybe okay if it worked on found caravans, so you'd get 75 gold instead of 50.
Right.
Even so, you don't find caravans in every game. It still would be kind of bad, but religion is kind of a double bonus.
I mean, how many hammers does it take to even build a caravan? Is it 20? Is it 30?
30. It's 30.
You know, how much more for a market or a library? Or...
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're totally not worth it.
And so now you've got your horse army out. You've got a couple warriors out. You may or may not have your 100 gold, but where are you going from there? You're looking for another cap, and let's say you get one, it's 2000 BC or somewhere around there. What are you looking to do from that point?
Well, I'm trying to keep my horse army out at my borders. I'm trying to be aware of what's around me. I'm trying to find more people. I mean, especially if it's a free-for-all. If it's a head-to-head, you know there's more AI to abuse. Looking for new cities to pop up. Said even with an archer army defending, your horse army's got a shot. You could have an advantage, and I'll usually take the risk. If I have the advantage, I'll try and win. I'll grow some then. 2 horse armies are better than 1 horse army. If you can get it, then I'd say do it. Just to protect yourself, just to, then later on, you just have them sitting around, and they're powerful.
What do you do with the cities you take? Do you say, okay, now I've got some cities, you try to get bronze working and put archers in them, or do you try to expand out of them right away, or do you try to make more horses out in them, or what?
I very rarely research bronze working. If I really end up wanting it, I mean, I can buy it from an AI for like 20 or 30 gold, or especially with the Arabs, the 2 attack is usually better than the 2 defense with just a warrior. And if you're paying attention, your horses can counter attack anything that comes at you.
So you prefer defending with warriors. Say you can't kill their other units with horse army. They're across the map taking another cap. How are you going to defend your capital?
I would try the 4 warrior defense if there was a horse army coming at me, which is you get 4 warriors defending, and then they get injured, hopefully, on one of yours. But even not, I mean, just a warrior army that you can attack his now horse army with no movement.
You wait until he attacks, then you form the army and counterattack.
Right. You don't want your army to get killed by his army, but you don't mind if your single warrior gets killed by his army.
And we're talking about horse armies coming at you. In the early game online, you won't see many warrior armies coming at you, unless they're maybe an Arab army, but...
Zulu, too.
Or the Impis, yeah.
Or the Impis, yep, the Zulu. Would you still do that against the Zulu, say if they had a vet Impi army coming at you?
There is a point where you should have archers. I mean, I don't like to leave cities empty. I don't like to risk drops, even if I can counter and take it right back. I mean, what if they get fundamentalism then? What if they get my gold? You know, I'm not going to leave cities completely undefended if possible. If there's Impis that are close to me and I know they're coming at me, then I will try and buy bronze working. Or if now I have 2 cities or 3 cities, I could tech it in 2 turns maybe, and have the resources to get like an archer up or 2.
And those archers have 2 attack as well, just like the warriors, and they have 2 defense.
Yep.
And so they can be pretty powerful, but what you're saying is it's not worth wasting the time on researching bronze working when your warriors can do just a good enough job defending and counterattacking.
Especially with only 1 or 2 cities. There's no sense in getting bronze working at that point, especially with such a powerful attack that you have. 3 warriors is 6 attack, and what won't that kill?
And that's been my experience with them as well. And most of the time, I'm bringing the fight to the other guy, and somebody's going to have to sneak by me to bring something at me. Even if they do bring something, it does seem like that attack can be reliable. I guess another unit is legions. I've seen a few legion attacks. I've never really found too much use for legions for myself or the Arabs. Do y'all ever see that online? Is the legion rush with the Arabs?
I would do them a little more. I like navigation. So if you get that galleon, then it's easy. 30 hammers is easy army for a bunch of attack. You bring it over around, just kind of look around, hunt around. You've got your scout unit on the ship already, so you know what the defenses are. And you pick off some cities. Keep pressure on them again, keep in their head. It's a useful unit. Underrated.
Definitely.
I haven't really seen it. I use them sometimes, but I don't think I've done it with the Arabs very much. Maybe not at all.
They tend to be more of a kind of like, oh, I'm so far behind, what am I going to do but use legions? And I don't know, it's not that often a factor with the Arabs, or if it is, you've got other ways to go, I think.
So now the rush phase is over. Say there's still a few capitals that you can't take. Well, what are you doing after you kind of finish taking the capitals you can get in the first 20 to 30 turns? Are you then looking to expand, or is it, I'm going to build horses all day long and eventually I'm going to kill them?
There's definitely a line. I mean, you figure a horse is the same as a settler per cost, so you've really got to be able to get something back from a 3-city investment with a horse army. Expanding is just an important part of the game, and if you can be taking cities and pressing them while you're expanding, that's all the better. If you've cleared your space and then you own all the territory behind your horse army, then sure, start throwing settlers out into it and making sure you can hold on to it and keep it as your own. You said the rush phase is over, but when is the rush phase ever over? You're always trying to keep pressure on them. You always want to know what they're doing and stop them from expanding, kill their units, just kind of keep them on edge and keep them uneasy.
The other good reason to expand is the side effect of starting with religion is that you get +1 culture per city. So the more cities you have, the more culture you get.
Well, let's move on to the medieval era, and that's when you receive knowledge of mathematics. So what do you guys do at this point?
Ideally, I'm trying to backfill. Like, I'd like to have enough beakers that I have 21 beakers a turn, and I'll just try and backfill the whole first tier, and that'll push me into the second age. That's ideally. I'm not trying to earn 4 or 5 or 6 science a turn and slowly limp my way in, because it's kind of a weak way to go at it. Better just expand in the ancient and get to the medieval a little stronger. I don't usually attack with catapults. I'll defend with them more, but I'll use it as a good leaping step to get to navigation. That's an important tech, I think, to get. Now your horse army, or whatever armies you have, can go on the attack easily. You can get wonders if they're still out there. You can know more of the map. You can know more of what they're doing.
You can use whales.
You can use whales. There you are. You can grow while teching.
You're probably targeting Code of Laws fairly early on and abandoning the fundamentalism in a lot of these games.
Sometimes. I've played games where I've stayed in fundamentalism the whole time.
I know you've beaten me that way.
Yeah. It depends. If my horse armies have been killed, then I don't know, maybe I'll think about switching out. The fundamentalism keeps pressure on them mentally, too, where they keep thinking anytime a strong army could just come out of nowhere and attack and take a city, and so maybe they're over-defending, or maybe they're at least thinking about it, and it's messing with their game a little bit. Code of Laws, if I'm doing it, I'm usually only doing it for a couple turns, for a little while, before I can tech up maybe to knights, and I'm switching back to try and finish the game. I'm not trying to build libraries, usually, unless it's going very, very, very late.
I don't know. That's always been my problem with them, is do I just keep pressing on, or do I switch over to Code of Laws? Can I expand out of fundamentalism?
The problem I have with the Arabs sometimes is that their knights are really great, but they don't really have any bonuses that help you get them out faster or have more of them, the way some other civs do.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they have the best knights in the game, tied with Japan, I guess. But sometimes it can be kind of hard to field very many knight armies very quickly, especially if your opponent is going to tech up fast and have cruisers or something like that, which just sort of kills your knight bonus.
Yeah, there's no way to get them quicker, unfortunately, with the Arabs, but the power is hopefully enough. Even if you can only make one army and have it stay close to home, you've got all of a sudden pretty rock-solid defense. I think Grayson said at one point you can swat away tanks if you've got a super knight army just kind of hanging out and waiting and watching. It's granted not easy, but you can do it.
Don't forget your old horsemen after 14 techs in fundamentalism are as good as anyone else's knights when attacking.
Exactly right.
Not as good when defending.
No.
You're not trying to take capitals. You're just trying to pressure and take other cities. If you see a new city pop up, I mean, that should be your city.
But catapults? The Arabs do get knowledge of mathematics for free after you research 5 techs and go to the medieval era.
I'm the same as Rob. I use them defensively mostly. Don't usually go on the attack with catapults.
Okay.
It's my style that I always want to expand a lot, and then I don't feel like I have enough money to make a whole bunch of catapult armies. So
it's the same cost as a settler as well. So it's an army would be 3. It's not like you get a free one to make it easier or anything. It would be 3 cities that you could be making. I mean, a lot more science, a lot more growth, a lot more production, as opposed to a catapult army. I'd rather maybe wait and get the knights out or just keep expanding if I think I can do that and win a game.
Are y'all looking to end the games with knights most of the time, or?
I'm hoping the game's over before knights.
You're hoping they're over with horses,
well,
in 2000 BC, and go on to the next
And
thing.
why not? In head-to-head, it works out pretty well.
And so we've covered all the way up to the industrial era. With the modern era bonus, have y'all ever seen any use for the 2% on gold reserves? Has that ever come into play?
Sure, a little.
I've won econ victories with the Arabs, so I mean, it helps a little bit. It's not a lot of extra gold, but it's a little extra gold. It's better than getting like +1 rifleman movement or something that some other civs get.
Right.
Plus, you don't have to pay the extra rushing costs or anything like that, so it's really just free gold.
It is free gold, yeah.
Then again, as y'all said, you want the game to be over faster with the Arabs, right?
You want it to be over, or you want to have a commanding enough lead that you're not as worried. You want to have a lot more cities, you want to have a lot more area. You want to try and get the money techs if you're getting to that point. I mean, you want the industrialization, you want the corporation bonuses, as much to stop them as to get it yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree with the idea that the Arabs should try to end the game before Modern, but with that in mind, getting a bonus in Modern that's useful if you haven't managed to end it before Modern is nice. If they got another +1 attack for Horsemen in Modern, that would be kind of stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not a game changer like we talked about
No.
with the English.
That's the best modern bonus in the game.
The double naval support, which most civs don't really have that great of a modern era bonus, or they're just not very relevant by the time the game gets there. You'd love to have them earlier. We've talked quite a bit about how to be the bully with the Arabs. Let's flip the script and talk about how to beat an Arab player. What happens when there's an Arab player coming at you with all these upgrades to their units with the +1 attack or the +1 night attack, or if they have a horse army to your capital in 2800 BC? I mean, what are you going to do to stop the Arabs?
That's tough. Like I said, a horse army to your capital at 2800 is just tough.
That's over.
Yeah, the best thing about the Arabs is that it's already 9 attack, even if it's fresh, not vet. Like, you can easily kill a single archer. It's tough to wound them.
Well, you got to give me something, Rob, to beat you. I need something here.
Well, I said 2,800 is pretty much trouble.
That's when I said that the army should be together, not delivered to an enemy capital.
Right. In 20 turns, maybe you got a better shot at taking them down. Detection is key. If you're getting surprised, then you're in trouble. But if you can be a little more prepared, 4-warrior defense can work. Better to probably have your own horse army to try and take them out.
The key really is a counterattack.
Yes.
Because you can't just build archers and be like, I hope he doesn't beat my archers. Because if he's any good, then he probably will. If you're not next to a hill and you get an archer army fortified in your capital, well, he could bring 2 horse armies and a warrior army or something like that. Unless you're the Aztecs, you will lose. Period.
Yeah.
One thing I'm always afraid of when I'm playing against an Arab player is no matter how bad I'm beating them down, until I kill them, I never know what's going to come at me. I've had games where I've beaten them down to 2 cities, and I felt like they're not a threat anymore. I'm going to go focus on the other civs. And then all of a sudden, here I am about to start my tank rush, and then they unload catapult after catapult after catapult, or, horse army, and it's just like 20 units, and I don't have anything over there to stop them. I could even have a rifleman army, and they're going to kill that. And it's just, until they're dead, you've really got to just be prepared. You either have to know exactly what they're doing or just be prepared for that rush. I've seen around on the forums a lot, people say, well, the best way to beat a rusher is rush them. Do y'all find yourselves doing that more, or do y'all just kind of prepare for a counterattack?
Trying to rush. If you're playing against somebody good, expect the rush and do it with your own rush. You know, meet them in the field, not on your cities. A horse army is invaluable in the early game, way more important than another city, which is why I rush horses before I get my 100 gold. And you've got to be able to survive. More important than you've got to be able to expand.
Yeah, even if you lose your army in the field because you got outmaneuvered or bad luck or something like that, that's better than taking some losses right at your capital, because you at least have more time to prepare. You could lose your horse army out there, you could try to get an archer army, you could try 4-warrior defense, you could try to have another horse army together. You have options. First of all, he might go the wrong way. He might not know which way to go. He might, I don't know, do something stupid.
Harass somebody else.
He might go after somebody else, but you could at least count how many turns it takes for him to get to you if he beelines you. So you can take that into consideration and prepare, but if he's right on top of you and 2 warriors in your capital or something like that and he comes and kills one, what are you going to do then? It's just...
Not much.
Yeah.
Maybe try. Lucky game, lucky attack.
1 to 4.5.
Right. Hey, who knows? I've seen crazier things happen. I should add one thing to try and stop those horse armies is better than 4 warrior defense is an archer fortified with 3 warriors waiting to counterattack, or even a 4 archer defense if you can do it. It's harder to injure that attacking horse army at 13.5 or whatever it's at. It's got to be more than your 2.5 defense. You've got to have something a little more substantial to have a shot at it.
Well, let's say you've survived the early rush against the Arabs. Once the Arabs get their +1 knight attack, what are you going to do to stop their super knights, basically? When they roll up to your capital with these knight armies that have 27, 36, sometimes 40-plus attack, if they have naval support, what are you going to do?
At least later on, you've got more options. I mean, a catapult army can kill a knight army pretty easily. I mean, especially if you know it's coming. A naval defense can help your cause greatly. You're hoping to out-expand the Arab guy. You're hoping that he's stayed in fundamentalism while you've been in Republic, and that you've gotten more cities, whereas he's built maybe an extra horse army. And you see him coming, and you've developed a counterattacking force. So nothing is going to stop 40 attack at that point in the game. You've got to let it kill a unit, and then you've got to be able to counterattack with your own.
Do not build defensive armies.
No.
Do not army up your defenders unless you're going to be overrun.
That just leaves us with a question. Arabs, great civilization or the greatest?
A great civilization. They're not the greatest by pretty much anyone's imagination, I think.
And so what civilizations would y'all recommend to counter the Arabs?
I would say, obviously, the power civs are going to do well, the Americans and Chinese particularly, just because they can have horse armies out sooner, and they can have more of horse armies.
Maybe the Romans, if you can get roads and have enough to be able to counter and re-attack.
Romans are tough. We've played Romans versus Arabs several times, and I think the Arabs have won each game.
Yeah, although the Arab horse rush was stopped, wasn't it?
The Arab horse rush is usually stopped, and the Romans still lose.
Right, because you've kept them pressured on defense.
We've played it both ways, and the Arabs always win, at least so far.
Matt, do you have anything else?
No, that's... No, we can probably save it for next time.
Alright.
What's he saving?
I came up with a puzzler, but I don't even know the answer to it, and it's kind of stupid. So maybe we'll save it for later, or at least until I can figure out the answer.
Well, we can leave the fans on a cliffhanger.
I know of at least 3 people that listen, so.
Us 3.
Yeah, your parents don't count. Well, this has been RevCast, and I'm Grayson, and I've been joined by guest co-host Rob, the Headless 10.
Hi.
And elthrasher.
Yep. See you out there.
All right.
Upward and beyond.
So I guess we'll start off the conversation with just kind of, I don't know.
Usually Joe does this kind of stuff, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we miss Joe.
Yeah, we miss Joe.
For more information about RevCast, sibling shows PolyCast and Modcast, or about PolyCast in general, log on to the series' official website at thepolycast.net. Record date March 11th, 2010.
Civilization Revolution Sounds clips copyright Take-Two Interactive.
Copyright Civilized Communication at civcom.net.